Hello my friends, and welcome to part 5 of the answer video. Now, part 4 would have been the last video, except that I said that I was going to keep answering questions left on the answer videos. So, this will be the video where I at least start to do that. And I have said that as of this point, the answers are still open at least for a little while longer. So, if you have any more questions that you want to have answered about anything at all, feel free to leave them in the comments. Okay. The first question on the first answer video comes from... Wait, is this sorted right? Just want to check. Newest first. Yep, there we go. Okay, good. The first question comes from Windsors21, who asks, I remember you saying once, I'm a Trekkie, I'm not afraid to admit it. So what is your favorite episode of the original series? Who is your favorite character? Are you a fan of the newer movies? I said that on my very first video, by the way, because I used to have that desktop background of all the Star Trek captains. And I have always loved Star Trek, and at that time in particular, I was going through a massive Star Trek phase, Late 2008, early 2009 was probably my peak Star Trek interest. So, yeah, I had the Captain's Wallpaper. I had the box set of all the Star Trek movies to that point, and I watched all the special features. So that was a lot of fun. But favorite episode of the original series is very hard for me to say because I actually haven't sat down and watched any of the old episodes in several years now. I did watch virtually all of them at the time, and there were just so many classic good episodes and good moments in there. So picking a favorite would be very hard. But I think one that I could just go ahead and say would be at least in the running, and this might be a cop-out answer, but I definitely like Space Seed because it sets up the greatest Star Trek movie, and one of my personal favorite movies of all time, The Wrath of Khan. The character of Khan, of course, being introduced in the episode Space Seed. And it was just a very interesting dynamic because Spock is confused about how humans can both, have a fascination with somebody, acknowledge that somebody has done terrible deeds, but also have a certain admiration for that person too, that kind of paradox. Because Khan, of course, had been a leader, he had been a dictator, and he did a great deal of things in his time, but, was very terrible, but also very impressive too. And he was played masterfully by the late, great Ricardo Montalban, who really was in that good of a shape in his 60s when he did The Wrath of Khan. So, it might not, there's probably episodes that I would rank higher if I went back and watched it, but for now, I'm just going to say Space Seed is pretty good. Who is my favorite character? Well, you know what? I'm just going to have to say it's the good old Captain James T. Kirk. And I just think that he epitomizes, the sort of the good kind of, what can I say? He has the alpha quality, he's the leadership quality. He is America in space. And I just really like him as a captain better than I like Picard or anyone following. And one of my favorite political commentators, Bill Whittle, has spoken about Captain Kirk at various points, and he makes the points a lot better than I could. But yeah, Kirk is pretty awesome captain. And ironically, even though I said he's America in space, he's portrayed by William Shatner, who is, of course, a Canadian. And are you a fan of the newer movies? I have to say that I'm not a fan. They're not terrible. They're better than the Star Wars prequels. However, there's so many things I could say about those movies, but basically what it boils down to is they took the Star Trek name, they took the names of familiar characters, and they just turned them into a generic sci-fi action movie. Which, I mean, number one, Star Trek was never really like action first and foremost. Like, it was definitely part of Star Trek, but it wasn't really the focus. And number two, like, they're basically just using the names and various elements of the personalities to make something completely new, but use name recognition to make more money. I think that's what they're doing. And this isn't to say that there aren't things I like about the movies, because there are things I like. I do like the look of the movies. I believe they're well directed. I'll give them that. And I think the cast is good. I like the choice of cast. I'm not as high on Zachary Quinto as Spock as everyone else seems to be, because Leonard Nimoy played Spock with a kind of a warmth to him, whereas, you know, the new Spock just comes off as a lot more just sort of prissy and kind of grating to me. But, you know, Chris Pine does a fine job as Kirk, and Keith Urban does a really good job as McCoy, and the rest of the crew generally does a very good job. It's very sad to hear about what happened to the dude who played Chekhov, who I can't remember his name. It just escapes me. But this dude was only 27 years old, and he was crushed because he had I think it was like a Jeep Grand Cherokee or something like that, and he thought he put it in the park, but it wasn't in park, and it rolled forward and it crushed him. Just really tragic. But yeah, most of the cast I really do like. So it's not their fault. It's not really the director either. I really like the look of the movies and how they're directed. You know, maybe a little bit too much fancy schmancy stuff in there. But the story just isn't very interesting, especially in the first movie. The whole plot of the first reboot movie makes no sense, and they could have done so much better with that, and I was very, very disappointed. The second movie was a little bit better than the first, and the third was a little bit better than the second, but at most, I would call the third movie so-so, and the others a little below so-so. I know there are people out there who love these movies, but they just aren't doing it for me. I just don't like them too much. But I hope that, you know, I'm proven wrong in the future by if they decide to do a fourth one and it turns out to be great or wonderful or classic or something. So, but I'm not holding my breath. I think it's going to be pretty much in the vein of the first three if it indeed is made. Which I don't know at this point if it will be, but I imagine it could be. There's still a lot of money in Star Trek. Okay, Dwyrin asks, how much longer does your beard have to get before it's officially declared a wildlife preserve? I'd say that long. So a couple more months. We'll give it. It'll get there. Okay, anyone else ask a question? Consigliere Crow, who actually I think told me how his name is pronounced. Oh, yeah. Consigliere. Oh, I got it right. Imagine that. Consigliere Crow asks, "Are you German or have German ancestry?" Noting the flag in the background. Yeah, this flag here, right here, is what he's talking about. And the reason I am actually part German, but that's not the reason I have the flag. It actually comes from a trip that I took. Interestingly enough, this ties into the next question. But in 2007, you remember my buddy Reader Gaming, right? Remember me telling you how he lived in Germany? Well, why did he live in Germany? And the reason was he got married to a German girl, and in 2007, I flew over to Germany to go to his wedding. And it was the first time and the only time I've ever been to Europe or anywhere outside the US and Canada. And I got to explore the city of Hanover a little bit. And this, I believe, if I remember correctly, was only 1 year after they won the World Cup. I'm pretty sure Germany won the 06 World Cup, and I was there in 07. And so, this is not just the German flag, but it's stuck. I can't really move it too much, but yeah. Fußball. So, yeah. Even though I kind of feel a little bit stupid having this flag up because I'm not, I don't watch soccer, period, really. And I also don't know anything about the German team, and I'm not really even a big fan of, modern Germany as it stands. So, the only reason I have it up there is because I got it on my trip for €7, and it looks cool, and it's just been up there for a very long time. But I have been seriously thinking about taking it down and putting up our good old glory instead. Instead of these little guys having one big guy. But no, I definitely am happy I have it. It's a good tribute to my journey over there some years back. Gabe Williams asks, "Have you ever been on vacations to places, and what are some that you went on?" Well, I just told you about Germany. As far as other interesting places I've been, well, I've been to a number of little places and interesting sites. Not as many as a lot of people, but I did go to Disney World when I was 14. My family took a vacation there, and that was pretty exciting to get to go there. It was very hectic, very, we gotta see this, we gotta see that, and, it was decent, but I don't know if it's, as amazing as everyone says. But I also went to Disneyland in California 3 years later when on the high school band trip. We went to Southern California for the band trip my senior year. Every 3 to 4 years there's a band trip, so it was really fun. But other places I've been to Toronto in Canada. Very much enjoyed that city. I've been to Boston twice. I've been to New York many times because it's actually within day trip distance from where I live. Where else have I been? Over the few times that we went back to Illinois to visit, we did stop at many places along the way, including, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Columbus, Indianapolis, cities like that are sort of on the way. So I went to a lot of those places when I was a kid. I remember the Wisconsin Dells. When I was very young, there's water parks in Wisconsin, which seems like a weird place to have water parks, but they have them, and they're really awesome. Have good memories. I've been to eastern Missouri. I've been to Hannibal, Missouri, the town where Mark Twain grew up. My cousin's wife is from there, so they had their wedding there, and that's the reason I went. Let's see, where else have I been? I've been to a number of cities, like later on in when as an adult, I went to, if you guys remember the paratrooper, that guy who, screwed me over back in 2013 when we were still friends. He and I went to Detroit together. We went to Toronto, like I said. That was one of the Boston trips, was with him. And plenty of trips to the Jersey Shore, specifically Wildwood and Atlantic City. I've also been to Ocean City. I've been to Long Beach Island. I've been to many, many towns on the Jersey Shore. Let me think. Where else have I been? Corning, New York, random little place where they have the Glass Museum. That popped into my mind for some reason. I've been to Niagara Falls a couple times. It's a pretty neat place, but it's kind of a tourist trap. And of course, Florida. I've been to, apart from Disney World, I also went to Florida one other time in early 2013 to visit my grandparents who live in Southwest Florida. It was very nice. They took me to Naples, and I got to walk around Naples, which is a very nice, very expensive city. Obviously very affected by Hurricane Irma, I believe was the one. But yeah, you saw Florida. I went to Charlotte, North Carolina one time when I was 19. I've been to Nashville a couple times because I have an aunt who lives there, but that was when I was a kid, so didn't really get to see too much. I got to go to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky when I was 8 years old, and that left a permanent impression on my mind because that was awesome. Like, it's just this massive, massive cave, and you can go up and down all these huge amounts of stairs. So, yeah, had a lot of fun there. Where else? I've been to Colonial Williamsburg in Virginia. Been to Baltimore. I went to Washington when I was like 12, back when Clinton was still president. And, good memories of that, but it was a long time ago. Always been meaning to go back, but haven't. Handful and plenty of small, less well-known places I've been to. But yeah, those are some of the places I've been to on trips and journeys. Okay, and we have a question from ZL Entertainment, who says, there have been many streams for the House of Sim, but there hasn't been any for a few years. Do you think that this year there will be a new House of Sim winter stream? You know what? I have been strongly considering bringing back streaming for the 7th anniversary of the first ever House of Sim winter stream, where I streamed Civ 3 on my crappy old laptop that kept crashing. I was actually thinking of doing a Civ 3 stream in tribute to that, and I might even make it a small multi-day event. Nothing on the level of what we used to do in 2012 through 2014, where we had multi-person, multi-event things that lasted, 2 weeks. It's not going to be like that, but maybe 4 or 5 days of Civ and maybe some other things. Like, I might do Civ 3 one night, maybe more than one night. I might do Civ 5, and I'd love to whip out Sonic Mania at some point during that if I decided to do it. And this stream, if I do it, will be right here on YouTube, because that's like the thing these days. People are actually really taking to that. So, yeah, I think I'm going to be doing my, at least strongly considering bringing back a throwback stream here on YouTube for the Christmas and winter holidays. I am strongly considering that. Well, that's about it for this video. Those were all the questions that were asked on the first of the answers videos, but there are more on the second and third, so I'm going to probably be doing one more, maybe two more, but this is pretty much the last chance to ask me questions. You might not get another chance if you don't ask on this video, although I might change my mind, who knows, but yeah, if you have any more questions you want to ask me, this is your final chance. Ooh. So, remember to get those questions in if you want them answered. But that is all for now, and I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.